to be the worst at remembering names. But, on the other hand, no one forgets a face, right? Everyone can remember a face from their childhood, remember seeing it one or two times. So how can two things that are so correlated as a face and a name, one is remembered, the other is not? Well, the answer is that a name is very arbitrary, right? My name is Michael, John, Richard, Karen. That doesn't really describe who we are. That's just something our parents chose to give us as a name. But a face, on the other hand, tells a story. Good or bad, we can tell maybe where that person's been, the experiences they've had. I don't shave very often because I hate shaving. I have bags under my eyes. I now have a 2-month-old son at home. Don't get much sleep, work a lot. So this tells a story. My face tells a story, and that's what we remember as the stories. The name doesn't tell a story. Would a rose smell sweet if it went by a different name? Well, of course it would. Rose is a very simple word. 4 letters, 2 of the most common letters in the alphabet. But as soon as I said that word rose, I imagine in a lot of people's minds, we saw a picture of a rose. We saw the beautiful red petals, silky petals, the glossy long green stem, the thorns. It's that story that we remember, and we associate the name Rose with that story. So I've always done this just kind of naturally. But it was recently when I heard a speech on TED Talks program where a guy visited a memory competition. And in this competition, people were given just absurd tasks, and they had to try and memorize them. For example, they would be given a deck of cards, and it would be completely random, shuffled, and then you have to memorize the order of those 54 cards. And then they would have to be given thousands of digits of just binary code, just 1 zeros, just completely random, and they would have to try and memorize that. And the point of the story of his speech is that these guys that were trying to memorize these, they didn't have the greatest memory. It wasn't something that they were born with. It wasn't a talent. They weren't the most intelligent. They weren't savants. It's that they learned how to use their memory, and they would do so by creating stories based on these playing cards and based on these numbers, so that when they were asked to remember those, they would just remember the story, not remember the actual data. So that's what I would like for everyone to do today, is to try and associate a face with a story. So I've got some faces here. We're going to practice this. Okay, so this is Chris. We've heard a lot of memorization where say his name once, Chris. Say it again.
Chris.
Hi, Chris. It's nice to meet you, Chris. Does anybody really do that? You say your name 3 times in a row right immediately. One, if you said that to somebody, they would know what you're doing immediately. They would say, oh, well, I see you're the worst at names. No, that's me. I'm actually the worst. So this is Chris. And this is Sarah. So again, just memorize Sarah. This is Sarah. Nice to meet you, Sarah. But now, if we associate a story with this person, and remember, we're doing this right when we first meet them. So we have to make up the story. We don't know anything about them yet. So the story needs to be completely absurd. You can't, well, for one, you do that so that you can remember. You remember the absurd story. You're not going to remember the mundane story. Oh, I'm Michael, I'm a tax attorney. That's boring. Nobody wants that. But 2, you don't want to confuse the made-up facts with the real facts. So it's got to be something completely absurd that would never actually happen. So here's Susie. Susie hunts bears. She's from Minnesota. And her favorite hobby is watching the Muppet movies, where ironically, her favorite Muppet is Fozzie Bear. So this is Susie. Now this is Oliver. Oliver is a Russian spy. He lives in an ice house in Bermuda, again, somehow. He's a Russian spy, and they've got the science to do that. He likes to drink hot toddies because he's so cold in that ice house. And he also has a My Little Pony collection because apparently, for some reason, young men now like to have My Little Pony collections. And this is Sebastian. Sebastian is a French chef that lives under the sea, down where it's better. Trust me, that's where it's better. And he is also a mixed martial arts fan. All right, so let's do a little practice. Who is this? Anybody?
Chris.
Chris. Okay, we did that one pretty well. What about this one?
Sarah.
All right, well, proving my point is incorrect. Sorry. So who's it?
Susie.
So why do we know that? What about her did we remember?
Susie Bear.
Susie Bear, there you go. And what about this guy?
Oliver.
What do we remember? What story was he?
Spy.
Yeah. Because that's kind of absurd. This guy looks like a computer guy, right? He's not a spy. But I guess that's why it makes him a good spy. What about this guy? Sebastian, exactly. He's a French chef who lives under the sea, along with the lobster chef and Little Mermaid. Anybody got that? So the point of my story today is that you remember stories, because that's what helps you remember faces and remember events and data. So no longer can we all be the worst person with names, because we all remember each other's stories. Thank you very much.